Chapter 31 Blue Mountains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To be fair, Bilbo was right, Levi had been through a lot these past few months. He'd personally taken down hundreds of orcs, he'd also transformed from a clueless rookie into a seasoned fighter who could keep his cool in any situation. While he hadn't been in any massive battles, he'd seen his share of ambushes and sneak attacks. After all those fights, Levi had changed, almost without realizing it. You look like you've been somewhere far away. Anything new, Levi? A lot, Levi sighed. Seeing Levi like that, Bilbo knew things were about to get interesting. The guy was a great storyteller. If I'd known you were coming, I would have picked up some fresh stuff. Let's make do for lunch, and then I'll hit the market later. Bilbo rummaged through his pantry, already planning his meals for the next few days. Unfortunately, Levi was only staying one night. Time together always flies. The next morning, Levi saddled up and got ready to leave. You really can't stay a bit longer, Levi. Bilbo was a little bummed. Don't worry, Bilbo, we'll see each other again. Bilbo put his hands on his hips and nodded, watching Levi ride off. Bilbo's thoughts drifted away, replaying the stories Levi had told the day before. Troll Forest, orcs, Rivendell, elves, all this new stuff made the Hobbit's adventurous side tingle. He almost wanted to. Nah, forget it. Adventure? No way. That kind of tiring, dangerous life was nothing compared to the comfort of Bag End. Shaking his head, Bilbo went back inside. Still, he couldn't help glancing out the window. A few days later, Levi, clad in elven steel armor, was tearing through the woods near the Shuin River, dodging trees and cursing under his breath. This is just great. Orcs out here. Seriously? Roar, and wargs, too. At least a dozen wolves were hot on Levi's heels, 5 with orcs riding them. He should have known better than to take this shortcut. Levi wasn't scared of such a small group, but his horse sure was. Hiss. An archer's arrow found its mark, hitting the horse and making it rear up. Before it could recover, a wolf lunged and bit its rear end. These beasts had a thing for biting butts. Get off! Levi slashed back, the wolf's head exploding in a shower of blood. He turned around and pulled out some wheat to heal his horse. Any other horse would have been dead a long time ago. The orc behind him screamed and fired another arrow, which zipped past Levi's ear. TSK. Seeing that just taking the hits wasn't working, Levi pulled out his bow and fired back. Whoosh! As usual, he missed. Huh! The orc behind him laughed. Levi had to admit, his archery skills were pathetic compared to even the most common orc archer. Laugh it up. If I wasn't on a horse, I'd wipe you all out. Levi gritted his teeth and kept drawing his bow. What he lacked in accuracy, he made up for in volume. If he shot enough, he was bound to hit something. Besides, he had a ton of arrows. How many archers do you know who carry hundreds of arrows? As wolves started dropping, the orc behind him realized something was wrong. Did this guy have unlimited arrows? He hadn't seen him reach for a quiver. Hey, trash, get down here and fight if you've got the guts, an orc yelled. You asked for it. Levi leaped off his horse, dodging behind a big tree. He quickly piled up some rocks to block the path, then ran back to intercept the wolves. Seeing Levi coming to them, the wolves ignored the horse and the rocks. They roared and charged, but Levi just casually chopped down 2 of them. Those 2 wolves barely scratched him, and the damage healed almost instantly. More wolves piled on, biting his kidneys, tearing at his thighs, and even trying to gnaw on his head. In seconds, Levi was covered in wolves, but the occasional -1 damage number proved they weren't doing much. No matter how much they bit, he healed faster. The worst damage they did was the mental kind. Levi was now covered in slobber. The rest was easy, just kill. Aha, you're dead. An orc charged forward, swinging his butcher knife, but the next moment, a sword pierced through the wolf and straight into the orc's throat. Damn, still biting hard even when they're dead. Levi yanked the dead wolf off him and chased down the remaining, now terrified, orcs. Blue Mountain Dwarf Faction Reputation +15. Linton Area Reputation +10. The reputation increase popped up, signaling the end of this patrol. Levi opened his character screen and noticed the Linton area reputation was at 160. He hadn't even done anything there recently. Huh? Then he realized something. Linton and Rivendell shared reputation, makes sense, considering they were basically the same people. Cool, a good relationship in Linton. As for the dwarves, at least the Blue Mountain dwarves liked him now, so he didn't have to worry about getting a cold reception. He cleared the rocks and got back on his horse. Levi continued west and soon reached the river. Across the Shuan River was the Blue Mountain, but swimming with a horse wasn't exactly an option. Levi pulled out his workbench and built a rectangular boat. He pushed the horse aboard, then hopped in himself, picked a direction, and started paddling. The boat was small, just big enough for one person and one horse. The oars churned through the water, driving the boat across the river, leaving ripples in its wake. Rowing was faster than riding, and before long, they were on the other side, standing on solid ground. Levi knew he was close. He pulled out the map Bilbo had given him. No one knew who had drawn the map or when, and it didn't mark the exact location of Thorin's Hall, but that was okay. When Levi got there, he could mark it on the system map himself. While the map didn't have an address, it did give him a vague direction. Southwest, that's where he needed to go. Most of the trip was boring, but finally, on the evening of the next day, he saw a peak in the distance and the lights at the foot of the mountain. He set foot on a well-maintained road, and finally let out a sigh of relief. He was here. Chapter 32 Tons. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. To be honest, it wasn't easy. Levi, having no idea where the main road was, relied on his memory and forged a path through the wilderness, navigating forests and mountains. It was truly off the beaten path in every sense. In some places, the terrain was so rough his horse almost couldn't manage. Finally, he spotted the well-maintained road leading to the Dwarven settlement. Overjoyed, he urged his horse towards the light. As he approached the towering gate built into the mountain, he slowed to a walk. He craned his neck, gazing up at the massive structure. Despite their short stature, the dwarves certainly had a knack for grand architecture. Levi had to keep looking up to take it all in. Even the entrance was enormous, suggesting the mountain had been hollowed out, creating an even larger space within. Ha! Admiring our handiwork, human? A voice startled him. He turned to see a dwarf standing on the side of the road, sizing him up. You don't look like a traveling merchant. What brings you here? The dwarf asked. Levi dismounted and greeted the seemingly older dwarf. Greetings. This is my first time in Dwarven territory. I've heard tales of your unmatched forging skills and wanted to see them for myself. Levi's words clearly pleased the dwarf. Then you've come to the right place. Dwarven craftsmanship is in a league of its own. The best armor, the sharpest weapons. If you've got the silver, you can take your pick. While we don't typically deal with outsiders, you seem alright. You've got the look of a seasoned fighter. I'd be happy to sell you some quality gear. The dwarf was surprisingly friendly. After a bit of conversation, he pointed Levi in the right direction. If you're looking for a place to stay, turn right after you enter. If you want to buy something, head left. There are several blacksmiths and a caravan that just returned. Thank you, Levi said. After saying goodbye to the welcoming dwarf, Levi led his horse, musing to himself, who says dwarves are rude and uncouth? That's just a rumor. He was perfectly polite, even enthusiastic. Lost in thought, Levi passed through the giant gate and entered the mountain hall where the dwarves lived. The dwarves lived and worked primarily within the mountain. Aside from caravans, few ventured out for long. Since the fall of the Lonely Mountain, this hall had become home to Thorin and his people. Although he had tried to prepare himself, the scene inside still amazed him. Stepping inside, Levi's eyes widened. The cavernous space was far larger than it appeared from the outside. An unseen dome, a chandelier suspended from a thick iron chain, glowing stones embedded in the walls, houses and bridges built along the valley, magnificent statues, and towering walls that reached to the high corners above the underground river. The echoing clang of metal rang through the air, mixed with the general din of activity. Following the dwarf's directions, Levi looked to the right and spotted a multi-story building teeming with dwarves. The inn. Welcome. Find yourself a spot. The innkeeper, a stout dwarf with a large belly, greeted him. Oh, but first, you'll need to stable your mount. Hey, kid, Take care of our guest's horse, that the innkeeper called over a young dwarf and quickly arranged for Levi and his horse. Soon, Levi was seated at a table, anticipating some dwarven fare, strong liquor, roasted meat. The fragrant food arrived quickly. Levi had brought plenty of silver coins, all looted from the ogre's den, enough to live large for a while. It must have been dinner time, because the number of dwarves increased. The previously quiet restaurant buzzed with activity as people filled the tables to eat. The increasing number of dwarves caused Levi to stand out. A human? Haven't seen one of those in ages. That's rare. He doesn't look like he's here on business. Probably just traveling. He's kinda scrawny. Good physique, maybe, but his beard's lacking. Wonder where he's from. Levi sighed and brushed off what would have been an insult, even for a dwarf. Sometimes these chatty dwarves could be a bit much. Hey, my beard. First time I've seen a human. Hey, brother over there, let's have a drink. A young-looking dwarf, a tankard of ale in his hand, called out to Levi. Levi raised an eyebrow, then raised his glass in response. Ha 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 ha. The dwarf roared with laughter and drained his tankard in one go. He wiped the foam from his beard and belched contentedly. Levi was not about to be outdone. He drained his glass without flinching, then raised it to the dwarf, indicating it was empty. Instantly, the watching dwarves whistled and cheered. Drink him under the table. Drink him under the table. Soon, the spectators, who had been watching with amusement, started egging them on. Levi looked helplessly at the innkeeper, only to find the dwarf joining in. No help there. All right, let's do this. Levi slammed his fist on the table, accepting the challenge. Good. If you can outdrink me, I'll pay for everyone's drinks. The young dwarf issued his challenge and ordered the innkeeper to bring over 2 large barrels of ale. With a crash, the tables were pushed together. Glug glug glug, chug chug chug. The two began drinking, foregoing side dishes. The dwarf was confident. Few could outdrink him. This human was sure to lose. Levi was equally confident. Being drunk was basically a buff for him, and he had several jugs of milk in his pack. And as for the threat of a beer gut, while alcohol could make one full, it was possible to continue drinking even when feeling stuffed. The duration of the drunken buff would only be extended. This glass, what shall we toast to? How about, our meeting? The dwarf hiccuped. The dwarf raised his glass and chugged it. Okay, thanks, but this is the 5th time you've toasted our meeting, Levi said while continuing to chug. The table in front of them was now littered with empty tankards. Judging by their size, each must have held at least a pint. The two had downed nearly 20 drinks each. I'm telling you, don't you go throwing it up. The dwarf's face was covered with foam, pointing at Levi, his eyes barely focused. Levi put down his empty mug and said nonchalantly, Oh, okay, I think I'm starting to feel something. Is this what being drunk feels like? Boom. Levi's words were calm, his eyes clear, with no trace of drunkenness. But to the young dwarf, these words sounded like the whispers of the devil. His eyes rolled back, and he face-planted on the table, foam leaking from the corners of his mouth. Levi's statement truly broke his heart. Victor, the human traveler, the innkeeper jumped on a stool, raised Levi's arm, and declared his victory. Oh. 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 Dwarf reputation in the Blue Mountains area +10, the base castle on the ground has its unique uses. As for the floating city, we will mention it later. Thank you to Dachine 3 for the 2 monthly tickets, thank you to the miserable 2 monthly tickets, thank Chanana for the 2 monthly tickets, thank Inglin Jiu for the 1 monthly ticket, thank Smiling Spring for the monthly ticket, thank Skeleton King Cassius 2 monthly passes, thanks to Alamo who loves reading for a monthly pass. Thanks to book friend 2021118185231632 for a monthly pass, thanks to book friend 20210301106537352484. A monthly pass, thanks to Zebing Lang for a monthly pass, thanks to a Passing Street Lamp King a monthly pass. Thank you all fairy friends for 2 monthly passes. Thank bookfriend 1612122324173131 for a monthly pass. Thank me, Ben Guhong, for a monthly pass. thank angry Taromaru for his 100-point reward for having his deposit stolen. Thank you for your support. Chapter 33 Diamond. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this for real? Levi took a step back, eyes glued to the reputation boost notification that popped up. These dwarves, man, they're the real deal. Even drinking with them gets you respect. This gives me ideas. Maybe I don't have to kill stuff to get famous around here. Thinking about it made Levi's head feel like it was floating. Uh-oh, here comes the sleepy. He checked his status. Drunk, 5 hours 34 minutes. Hey, I should probably head upstairs and drop off my bag. Of course, sir, just watch your head. The ceilings are a little low for someone of your stature. Bang! A crash echoed from the stairwell. Sir, you okay? I'm good. Levi yelled back, scrambling into his room. He grabbed the milk and chugged it down. The buzz vanished instantly. Levi hadn't forgotten why he came, but that little detour threw him off his game. At least he was saving money on a hotel. The young dwarf promised to cover it. Sobered up, Levi didn't hang around. He headed straight for the marketplace. It was bustling. Like the dwarf he met said, a caravan just rolled in with fresh goods and everyone was splurging. Levi stood out a bit amongst the dwarves, but nobody bothered him. Thanks to his friendly rep walking along, several blacksmith shops caught his eye. Finest swords and armor. Levi sauntered over and checked out the merchandise. Dwarf steel sword, attack +7, seriously? These roadside swords are as good as diamond swords. Looking for weapons? You came to the right place. I got quality stuff here. Looks good, Levi nodded, but didn't really need anything. Nothing here beats what I already have. After checking out the weapons, Levi moved on to the armor, giving it a good feel and a couple of taps. The blacksmith finally cracked. Hey, human, that's dwarf-sized armor. Won't fit you. I could tailor something, but it'll take a while. Just browsing. Levi was a little bummed. He'd seen the swords and touched the armor. Why haven't I unlocked the recipe yet? Levi thought back to how he unlocked the formula in the valley. Right, it was seeing the crafting table, so, the dwarf recipe only unlocks when I see their forge. Find anything you like. Nah, nothing I need. Levi shook his head and asked, you got any diamonds or obsidian? The blacksmith gave him a weird look. You think I'd have that here? Can't make weapons or tools out of that stuff. Try the miners, they might have some stashed away. Or, check out the jewelry guy down the way. The blacksmith helpfully pointed Levi in the right direction. Thanks. Levi navigated through the busy caravans and found a quieter shop. He asked his question again. Obsidian? What's that good for? Nope, but I got diamonds. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, what's your pleasure? I need a whole one. The jeweler sized Levi up. Never judge a book by its cover, I guess. This guy's clothes are top of the line. Must be loaded. How big? About this big, Levi said, gesturing to the size of the diamond in the synthesis table. He wasn't sure if he could afford it. The jeweler's eyes widened at Levi's gesture. Whoa there, buddy. A single diamond that size? That'll be tough. I could do smaller stones that add up to the same size, though. Smaller stones, Levi hesitated, then agreed. Okay, let's see what you got. See what I got. The jeweler went into his back room and came back with a pile of diamond chips. Think this'll work? Unlocked formula, diamond grains. A pile of these chips can be combined into a whole diamond. Alright, what's the damage? The jeweler quoted a price. Levi checked his dwindling coin purse. These ogres were stingy. I'm a little short. Can I trade some gems? As long as they're worth it. Levi pulled out the gems he'd looted from the corpse demon. The corpse demon was still paying dividends. Those are good quality. They'll get you 1.2 times their value in diamonds, still not enough, though. I'll cover the rest with coins. Levi winced, back to square one, but, finally, achievement achieved, diamond. Back at the hotel, the diamond appeared on the workbench. I traded more than half my coins and 3 small gems for a diamond the size of my fist. The synthesis left over a small piece. I spent almost all my money on this diamond, need another one, but I'm broke. Levi was annoyed, then he remembered what the jeweler said, a diamond that size is rare, right? Levi weighed the diamond in his hand. This diamond is gorgeous, crystal clear, top-notch quality. He went downstairs and asked who the richest dwarf was. Soon, he was at another dwarf's house. Amazing! The dwarf, clearly fatter than the others, shouted. Take it all. I'll give you all my silver and gold, just give me that. Big, beautiful, hard, high-quality diamonds were a weakness for a rich dwarf who loved shiny things. I don't need gold or silver. I want diamonds. Lots of them. Broken, chipped, I want them all. Don't move, I'll be right back. The dwarf rushed out with all his savings. Levi started to wonder if the guy was ever coming back, when the wealthy dwarf burst through the door carrying a small box. Is this enough? I guarantee all the diamonds in this area are here. You won't find more anytime soon. Levi opened the box. Enough diamond chips to make 5 diamonds, this guy really hoards. Good enough. Here you go. Achievement obtained, give you diamonds. A good deal. Levi traded 1 diamond for chips that could make 5. The dwarf traded some low-quality chips for a huge diamond. Everyone was happy. Chapter 34 Dwarven Technology, Obsidian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This could be a money-maker. Levi examined the 5 diamonds in his hand. Considering his options, the diamonds he synthesized on the workbench were not only large, but also top quality. Whatever their original flaws, they always became flawless after synthesis. Collect average diamonds, synthesize them, and sell them for a huge profit. He just couldn't overdo it, or he'd saturate the market and drive the price down. He'd probably already bought up all the diamonds currently for sale in this area. To get more, he'd have to wait for the next shipment. The dwarves definitely had more diamonds stockpiled somewhere, especially these dwarves. They lived comfortably, they just hadn't expected anyone to buy so many at once, especially buying raw materials instead of finished jewelry. Obsidian. Now that he had diamonds, he needed to find obsidian. It wasn't usually in demand, and the dwarves didn't seem to have any on hand. Looks like he'd have to find another source. Maybe he could get some lava. Levi approached the blacksmith who'd given him directions earlier. Got any lava? I just need a bucket. Lava? What do you need that stuff for? That the blacksmith was puzzled. What would a traveler want with lava? Was he planning on taking it home as a souvenir? That was crazy. I need it for something. Nope, not selling it. What if I bought this sword? Levi purchased the only sword in the shop and tried again. Just 1 bucket, I'll pay you for it. The sword wasn't cheap, but money wasn't really an issue. Even if Levi was short on cash, he could make more whenever he needed it. Might as well spend it now. The blacksmith hesitated, then finally gave in. Okay, my brother works at the smelting plant. He can probably get you some. Levi was relieved. If this hadn't worked, he would have had to bring more supplies and try to dig into the mantle himself. But the mantle, he wasn't sure he could survive those conditions. While he waited, the blacksmith led Levi deeper into the hall, making several turns until they reached an empty forge. Hey, old-timer, how's it going? Not bad. A dwarf wiping sweat from his brow stood in front of a large furnace, hammering a piece of armor. He finished the current stage of the work and came over to greet the blacksmith. Who's this? He eyed Levi. A customer. He wants a bucket of lava. Can you help him out? Easy enough, but just lava? Yep, Levi replied, producing a bucket. Just fill this bucket. Alright, weird request. After chatting with his friend for a bit, the blacksmith went back to his shop. Levi, meanwhile, was getting antsy, eyeing the equipment in the forge. I wouldn't touch anything if I were you. Unless you want to burn your fingers off. The dwarf warned, but Levi couldn't resist. His who, hot. Special multi-block structure dwarf furnace array detected, new synthesis formula unlocked, yes. Levi finally had what he wanted. You're even more reckless than the most reckless dwarf I've ever met. The dwarf exclaimed, adding fuel and stones to the furnace. Levi just chuckled, already focused on the synthesis table. The furnace array was a multi-block structure used for smelting special metals and liquids, like lava. All you needed was fuel and enough cobblestones to create lava artificially, just like the dwarf was doing. Can I look around? Levi was excited by all the large equipment nearby. Look all you want, but don't touch. Got it. Levi explored the forge, adding several multi-block structures to his synthesis table. Dwarf-specific technology. With these, he could smelt ores much faster and forge dwarf-style weapons and armor. Most dwarven weapons were heavy weapons like battle axes, throwing axes, and hammers. Dwarves were partial to those kinds of weapons. Levi figured the sword in the blacksmith shop wouldn't be an easy sell, so he'd offer to help him get rid of it. Besides weapons, Levi also unlocked higher-level tools. Dwarven steel or pickaxe, a pickaxe specifically designed for mining. Stronger than an iron pickaxe, but not as durable as a diamond one. It could still mine obsidian. Now he had the materials to make an enchantment table and a nether portal. Even though he was still in the Blue Mountains, Levi was already thinking about where to put them back home. It was long overdue. The sound of the furnace snapped Levi out of his daze. A stream of glowing liquid flowed from the pipe, filling the iron bucket. Here's your lava. Levi thanked the dwarf, paid him enough for a drink, and stowed the lava bucket. Achievement, hot. The primary goal of his trip to the Blue Mountains was complete. Speaking of which, isn't this place led by King Thorin Oakenshield of Durin's folk? With the lava put away, Levi turned to the dwarf. Yeah, we're proud to have him as our leader. Under his leadership, we live well. The dwarf answered, looking at Levi and then at where the lava bucket had been just moments before. Where did it go? How could it vanish so quickly? Is he still around? Levi wasn't sure when Thorin would leave for Bree. He knew Thorin would meet Gandalf in Bree next year and start the quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain. The dwarf suddenly looked behind Levi, towards the entrance of the hall. He's coming. Heavy footsteps approached. Levi turned to see a tall, for a dwarf with strong arms walking towards the forge table without saying a word. A dark cloud seemed permanently etched on his face. Even though Levi had never seen him before, he knew immediately, this was Thorin Oakenshield. The dwarf next to him saluted Thorin, who paused briefly and nodded. Then he looked at the rather conspicuous human beside him. Normally, anyone who barged into the forge would be thrown out, but this one seemed all right. His face didn't look like a bad guy's, as he always did when meeting someone new. Levi gave a friendly greeting. Thorin stared at the impressive human for a few seconds and nodded. Then he walked to his workstation and started forging. Clang. Swinging the hammer built strong arms to wield weapons. The dwarf heir was always preparing for battle. Chapter 35 Return. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thorin might head to the human town soon, but probably not right now. Lately, Thorin's only focus had been reclaiming the Lonely Mountain. Ever since inheriting the title of King of Durin's dwarves, his desire to reclaim his homeland had grown, eating away at him day and night. Still, for the most part, Thorin seemed all right. He carried himself with the bearing and skill of a king. The dragon still felt far away. After their brief encounter, there wasn't much else to say. Levi returned to the inn and spent a few more days soaking up the dwarven culture, checking out the market, and buying some local stuff. He picked up a good amount of lapis lazuli. The dwarves mined this pretty blue stone themselves, but there wasn't much demand for it. It seemed they mostly used it for decorating floors and walls. Levi got a whole bunch without breaking the bank. He wandered around until his silver coins ran out, then decided it was time to head back, and with that, his trip to the Blue Mountains came to an end. Too bad our drinking buddy's leaving. You're the best human I've ever met. Say, what's your name, sir? That the innkeeper, knowing Levi was leaving, came out to see him off. The innkeeper was a pretty adaptable guy, polite when he needed to be, and rowdy as any dwarf when the time was right. Levi answered. Levi. I'll remember that. Come back and visit sometime. We can share a drink when you get the chance. Asterisk next time, asterisk who knows when that'll be. Without looking back, Levi mounted his horse and rode out of the mountains. Once he was clear of the Dwarven settlements, Levi immediately put on his armor and took off through the woods. His silver-gray armor made him look like someone you didn't want to mess with. Any lone bandits or orcs would likely think twice before approaching him. Levi was no longer the naive adventurer who'd first left the Shire. He'd seen a lot and spilled some blood. He wasn't interested in dealing with bandits who might be lurking. He put on his armor when danger was likely. Now, Levi valued safety and efficiency more than just looking good. Even though the armor wasn't bad-looking either, the ride was uneventful. A cool breeze blew through the air. Levi knelt by the Shun River and touched the water. It's getting cold. Autumn was coming. Bilbo, far away in the Shire, was thinking the same thing. He put on a coat, sat inside his house, looked at the stars through the window, and smoked his pipe. Nice, nice. I can see the stars looking up, and the garden, grass, and river looking down. Plus, there's a warm fireplace, so even if winter comes, I'll be alright. What more could I ask for? I wonder how Levi's doing. Hope he's having a good trip. It's been a while since Levi left, but I still remember his stories. He said he was headed to the Blue Mountains in the west. Must be a pretty spectacular place, Bilbo thought, as his eyelids grew heavy and he drifted off to sleep. The next morning, knock, 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 someone was at the door. Hold on, just a minute. Let me flip this egg first. I wasn't expecting anyone. Creak, the door opened. Those words sounded familiar to Levi. Maybe next time he should visit when Bilbo wasn't cooking. Levi. You're back so soon. Come on in, I'm making breakfast. Want to join me? Wouldn't want to impose. Levi said, walking into the house. Then, as Bilbo watched, he grabbed the spatula and started making breakfast. After a while, Bilbo, face glowing, belched contentedly and collapsed in his chair. Levi always meant he was going to overeat. He didn't bother Bilbo for too long. After breakfast, he stayed for lunch, and then got ready to head home. Bilbo looked sad to see him go. But before leaving, Levi left Bilbo a gift. Brought back some stuff from the dwarves in the Blue Mountains. A thank you for taking care of me. Levi pulled out a large bag and set it on the floor with a thud. Was some stuff a bit of an understatement? Bilbo stared at the sack, then at Levi. Oh, you shouldn't have. That's what I do. Glad you came to see me. Still, he eagerly stuck his head in the sack. Is this a sword? Bilbo pulled out the dwarven steel sword and examined it. The cold light from the blade made the hobbit, used to comfort, uneasy. Can't really think of what I'd use this for. Maybe chopping vegetables. Whatever you want. Levi shrugged. It is pretty though. Shaking his head, Bilbo put the sword on a shelf, then he stuck his head back in the bag and pulled out a round loaf of hard bread and sniffed it. What's this? Cram, Levi replied. The dwarves brought it back from River Valley. It's their local specialty. Thought you might like it, so I got a bunch. Basically, it's Middle-earth's version of dark rye, Levi thought. It'll last a while. Although full, Bilbo still took a bite of the cram. Hearty, a little salty. Probably added salt. Unique and refreshing. Pretty good. Bilbo nodded, approving. Glad you like it. In Bilbo's eyes, Levi always came and went so quickly. In the blink of an eye, Levi was gone. Taking another bite of cram, Bilbo looked at the sack of bread on the ground and scratched his head. Wait a minute, Levi didn't say how long this stuff lasts. It's very long, but how long is that? Levi didn't pay much attention to expiration dates. The inventory made it last forever. Anyway, after leaving the Shire, Levi stayed in Bree for a short time. He asked around, bought a bunch of books, and also bought 2 sheep from local farmers to take with him. Didn't matter if it was male or female, or even if they produced wool. As long as they were fed, they would give birth. I'm back. Opening the city gate, Levi placed the 2 sheep and immediately inspected his territory. Everything was the same as always, except that the crops had ripened. Now, time to get to work. Chapter 36 Enchantment in Bed. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After getting the horses settled and his pack unpacked, Levi raced to the warehouse for supplies and then to the industrial area to start constructing his gear. First up was the dwarf smelting array, a huge contraption, bigger than the blacksmith shop next door. It took a ton of work and iron to build. Next, he built various dwarf forging tables, big and small, including a massive pendulum that needed a ceiling mount. After a moment's thought, Levi just dug a gigantic underground forging workshop under the industrial area and moved all the dwarf-related stuff down there. This is just like a dwarf's workspace, he thought, everything underground. Levi grabbed a pile of coal, tossed it into the smelting array, and added some stones. As the fuel burned, the stones inside melted into buckets of magma. Levi dumped the magma into water, turning it into obsidian. Then he dug it out with a dwarf steel pickaxe, raw materials acquired. Soon, in a new, impromptu workspace, Levi set up the workbench. Achievement, Enchanter. After a little while, a block with an obsidian base, diamonds inlaid on the corners, and a floating book appeared on the ground. The enchantment table was finally done. Sensing someone nearby, the book automatically flipped open to face Levi, making it easy to read. Pretty cool. Touching the book, strange runes appeared inside. Levi could barely understand any of them, the rest was just gibberish. He could only see one enchantment attribute at a time. Of course, Levi wasn't going to start enchanting yet. The table needed bookshelves to reach its full potential. Achievement, Librarian. Before long, rows of 8-foot-tall bookshelves surrounded the enchantment table. As if sparked by this, transparent runes slowly floated from the shelves and converged on the floating book above the table. Staring at it, Levi suddenly realized that Faladane would definitely call him a wizard again, and there was no way to talk his way out of it this time. But so what if he was a wizard? It wasn't the worst thing to be called. Once he was sure the enchantment table was maxed out, Levi excitedly pulled out his ancient elven sword and placed it on the table. Whoosh! The ancient sword lifted out of Levi's hands and hovered above the table. 3 options appeared in the book. He skipped the first 2, Levi went straight to the third, sharpness 4. Jackpot! This meant the enchantment definitely included sharpness 4, while the others were a gamble. Levi checked his level 47. Plenty high to enchant some stuff. Without a second thought, Levi pulled out the lapis lazuli. Whoa! The lapis melted instantly, turning into a ray of light that focused on the sword. The final attributes appeared before Levi: sharpness 4, endurance 3, sweeping edge 3. The sword's attack power went from 9 to 11.5. Not bad at all. Levi took the ancient elven sword. It looked like an ordinary sword, but if you looked closely, you could see it emitted a faint glow. Setting it apart, the glow didn't clash with the light the sword gave off around orcs, and it added a nice touch. The more Levi looked at it, the more he liked it and didn't want to put it down. This was way more than just a sword. Still, sharpness 4 was kind of ugly. Levi took out the elven steel armor from his backpack and put it on to keep enchanting. Protection 4. Nice, let's do it. Durability 3. Felt shaky. Better enchant a book to reroll. Levi's level kept dropping, until, finally, at level 29, he got a full set of elven steel armor with protection 4 and an enchantment book with durability 3. Seeing he was close to leveling up again, Levi went out and slaughtered a bunch of chickens. Then, enchant the book again. Sharpness 4, underwater breathing. Thankfully, Levi got the attributes he wanted. And just like that, a sword with sharpness V was born, with an attack power of 12, stronger than anything in the original game, armed with a set of armor with protection 4 and an ancient elven sword stronger than a netherite sword. Levi figured he could go toe-to-toe with the 20-man warg riders he'd run into in the troll forest without having to sneak around trolls. He could just tank them, no skill required. At this point, anything short of a full-scale army wasn't much of a threat. Leaving the enchantment table and looking at the sword with only 3 attributes, Levi still wasn't completely satisfied, but whether the attributes were good enough or not, the experience definitely wasn't. Was there any other way to get good enchantment books? Fishing could net treasures and experience, just that the fishing rod needed string. It was hard to believe he still hadn't found any string after all this time. was he really going to have to find a man-eating spider? But spiders that big were usually in Mirkwood or Mordor. Wait, Levi suddenly remembered the human town near Bree. The farmers grew flax, right? Flax. That's used to make. Time for a trip. A day later, Levi returned with some seeds, planted them, and used bone meal to make them grow. Crop obtained. Flax, recipe, 1 flax equals 1 string. Alright, no need to fight a scary spider. Levi made a flax farm on the spot, used bone meal to get it growing, and made a fishing rod. Time to cast a line. It was dark in a blink. Bow, leather, rotten meat, bowl, tripwire hook, stick, water bottle, enchantment book. Too bad nothing's worth enchanting. Looking at the pile of fish and junk in the box, Levi stretched. Luckily, after a day of fishing, he was above level 30 again. He made a new fishing rod and enchanted it on the spot. Luck of the Sea 3, unbreaking 3, still no bait. Not bad. The chance of getting treasures with Luck of the Sea 3 was more than double what it was without the enchantment. It was now completely dark. Levi went to the ranch to feed the animals. Click, a few pieces of wool fell into his backpack. This was the first time Levi had gotten wool. Come to think of it, he had never made a bed. Levi was suddenly struck by an idea. After all, he didn't really need to sleep. He could be energized all the time if he wanted. Truth be told, Levi had never slept in his territory. He was always mining or developing. Even the bed in his room was just 2 wooden planks, with no blanket. You couldn't even call it a bed. Levi thought to himself. He didn't care, but if he had guests, it would be awkward to make them sleep on planks. Not everyone could sleep anywhere. Finally, Levi made a bed for the first time, then he put one in his master bedroom and all the guest rooms. That should be good now. Levi put 3 beds in his master bedroom and made one giant bed. Thump. Levi dove onto the bed. Ah, comfortable. Levi moaned and sank into the soft wool bed, slowly getting sleepy. It was a feeling no other bed could give him. It was definitely worth being made by the workbench. It was like the bed in the valley. Respawn point set. Whoosh. Levi was wide awake and stood up instantly. P.S. Sorry the bed showed up so late. Thanks to the deep-sea submarine in the sky for the 500-point reward. Thanks to 3 years of blood writing for the 100-point reward. Thanks to Chanana for the monthly ticket. Thanks to Passerby A and Passerby for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to Bookfriend 201704271236511870 for the monthly ticket. Thanks to Kaikaman for the monthly ticket. Thanks to Bookfriend 202209072233417443 for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to Xiaoyao Yuzian for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to Yuiji Xiaoxia Agwai for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to 3 years of blood writing for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to Bookfriend 202207212300489885 for the 2 monthly tickets. Thanks to Yeshiao. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Tan. Thanks for 1 monthly ticket from Secretly Watching You 0_0. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Bookfriend 202402082149144435. Thanks for 1 monthly ticket from Sue Lelelelio. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Book Friend 202006260822402227. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Tang Shiguang. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Disaster Buried. Thanks for 1 monthly ticket from Lei Ni Iduan. Thanks for 1 monthly ticket from Woban Guhong. Thanks for 1 monthly ticket from Chasing Dreams of a Child's Heart, The Starry Sky Story. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Chow Chow Being Eaten by Books. Thanks for 2 monthly tickets from Reader 20210202053348912545. Thank you for your support. Chapter 37 Hell. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even though he'd made some educated guesses, Levi's heart still hammered in his chest when he saw the message. Ever since he'd arrived in this world and noticed his health bar showed a regular red heart, not an extreme version, he'd wondered if he only had 1 life. He just hadn't wanted to test the theory. After all, real death wasn't an option, but he quickly calmed down. Bed block is only valid within your territory. Levi's territory was his world. You can only respawn in your territory. Well, that explains why I didn't get any prompts when I slept anywhere else. It was waiting for this. I'd be a fool not to expand this territory to cover the whole world. Levi began to think his current territory was a little cramped, however. Still, if you can survive, try not to die. Levi shook his head, putting those thoughts aside. This world was still a dangerous place. There was no telling what would happen after death, and let's be honest, dying just plain sucked. Who knew if the resurrected version would even be him? Like he said, if you can survive, do it. Nevertheless, Levi placed several chests next to his bed, stocking them with spare equipment and weapons. That night, Levi had one of the best sleeps he'd had in a long time. He woke up at sunrise, feeling refreshed and full of energy, just like normal. Nothing felt different, except maybe a bit of a mental boost. It was like a real, honest-to-goodness night's sleep. Today was another day full of promise. Time to catch a couple of rods first thing. Levi went back to fishing and kept at it until evening. Another day gone. Plop. He hauled in an enchanted book. Mending. Levi immediately applied it to his ancient elven sword. Honestly, he didn't really need it. The sword's durability was ridiculously high. It barely degraded at all. Levi couldn't imagine how he could break it. It was definitely the work of a top-tier craftsman from the First Age. Maybe only Sauron at the height of his power could damage it. After sitting around all day, his hunger bar barely moved. Levi grabbed a quick snack and stared at the water. He felt like he was forgetting something. The smelting setup was there, the forging tools were complete, and the enchanting table was ready. What was missing? That's it, the nether portal. Levi slowly reeled in his fishing line and headed to the underground workshop to smelt magma. As bucket after bucket of magma turned into obsidian, Levi felt his palms getting sweaty. That was another world. If it connected, he would definitely notice. Levi couldn't even begin to guess the attitude of the being he didn't understand, but he was already this far. Everything was in place. He couldn't back down without trying. He quickly gathered 10 obsidian blocks. Levi returned to the surface, picked a spot, surrounded it with a fence, and began building the nether portal. Click. The final block was placed. Levi pulled out the flint and steel. Click. Time seemed to stop for Levi. The river still flowed. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Horses neighed in the pasture, cattle and sheep bleated, the grass swayed, and the stars twinkled. Everything seemed so peaceful, but to Levi, the quiet starry sky above felt like it was collapsing, crushing him. An immense presence descended upon the roadside fort, centered on Levi, extending to the newly built nether portal. No one could comprehend the pressure Levi was under, even though the being seemed benign, even gentle. Levi's pressure was simply the instinct of encountering something vast. Before long, a low, droning sound emanated from the nether, reminding Levi of the ambient music from the game. Then came a sigh. In an instant everything was normal again. Levi stood frozen, took a deep breath, and felt the release. At the same time, he understood, nether creatures couldn't cross the portal, and Zhongzhou creatures couldn't enter. The passage was open to Levi alone. And, the nether portal couldn't be built outside his territory. This rule didn't seem to come from him, but was inherent. But think about it, if the nether could expand unchecked, you could just build a few high-efficiency piglin farms, and it wouldn't take long for them to overrun Zhongzhou. Instead of grand music, the whole world would be filled with piglin grunts, but at least he could finally go to the nether. Levi put on his armor, grabbed his supplies, and stepped through the nether portal. Whoosh, achievement, going down. A feeling of weightlessness washed over him. Levi opened his eyes to a world of crimson, and then came waves of heat. I'm here, nether. Stepping onto the soft netherrack, Levi felt a strange sense of familiarity. A whale came from the horizon, followed by a huge fireball. Levi immediately went on alert. His battle instincts kicked in, instantly pinpointing the sound's direction. He drew his long sword and swung at the incoming fireball. The sword deflected it, sending it back the way it came. A message popped up. Achievement, return to sender. An extra 50 experience points were awarded. Gasped. After all the battles in Zhongzhou, where he was used to dealing with archers, this slow-moving fireball looked like a bubble floating in the sky. He didn't even need to focus, it was an easy hit. Still, to avoid any repeat attacks, Levi surrounded the nether portal with cobblestones as a shield. It wouldn't be good if the portal got blown up by accident, whoosh, star, just as he finished securing the portal, an arrow shot at him from behind. Almost instinctively, Levi raised his sword and blocked it. He turned to see a skeleton archer, spawned from the soul sand biome, too slow. This skeleton's archery was worse than his. Levi blocked another arrow with his long sword. He was getting bored. Compared to the intensity of battles in Zhongzhou, fighting these monsters felt like kids playing around, straightforward, with obvious objectives. He killed the skeleton with 2 strikes, looked around, and surveyed the landscape. The nether still had that blocky style, but the monsters were more realistic. But that was it. Other than looking scary, they weren't much of a threat. The easy combat was making Levi complacent, but he quickly snapped out of it when he spotted a dark brown brick fortress standing on a lava sea near the Soul Sand Valley where the skeleton archer had spawned. A nether fortress. Jackpot! Levi gathered cobblestone and started building a bridge, soon stepping onto the solid nether brick. Achievement, Spooky Scary Fortress. The looting began. Nothing was safe from a Minecraft player. When all the chests in the fortress were emptied, Levi's inventory held 9 diamonds, 23 gold ingots, some iron, various gold equipment, flint, iron horse armor, and diamond horse armor. Lucky day. Of course, besides looting chests, Levi didn't forget the most important things in the nether fortress, nether wart, and blaze spawners. Some people complain about being able to resurrect, and some people complain about not being able to resurrect. In any case, it's a controversial point that can't be avoided. Sorry, but I won't use the resurrection function. I just want to beat the game with 1 life. Thanks to Shushan Yudao for the 1500 points reward, thanks to Huanmia Xiao for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 201906232241033018 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 202004041165116579 for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Chigua Dajong for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Mai Yishuan for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 202205131950184333 for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Pengzipan for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Xiaoxinx for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Alpha Weird June for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 201804140820515592 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 1312101600568870 for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to MC Square Man for 1 monthly ticket. Thank you for your support. Chapter 38, Journey to Hell. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Netherwart is essential for alchemy, and blaze men are consumable materials and a source of raw ingredients. Clang. A sword struck the blaze man, the sound like metal on metal. No one knows what these things are made of, but they're tough. Boom boom boom. Several blazes fired fireballs at Levi, but they were useless. Levi raised his shield, and they couldn't even dent it. Achievement unlocked, Dancing with Fire, Blaze Rod acquired. Crunch, a group of withered skeletons tried to sneak up from behind, but they couldn't even get close. With precise spacing, Levi took them all out with just 3 sword strikes. That sweeping attack is brutal. Levi's strikes not only seriously injured his target, but the force shattered the skeleton next to it, way more intense than the game. After hanging around the Blaze Man spawner, hoping for more materials, but finding nothing else to loot, Levi decided to leave the fortress for a bit and dig up some soul sand and glowstone. On the way back, he also took down a magma cube and collected some magma cream. Great stuff for treating burns. He stepped back through the portal. Phew. Back in Zhongzhou, Levi sighed in relief. Truth be told, the nether is just too damn hot, and the sulfur smell gets old fast. Home sweet home, with fresh air. Levi expanded the nether wart farm below his base. Achievement unlocked, Local Brewery. Now that he had the blaze rod, the first thing was to make a brewing stand and whip up some potions. Levi already had plans for the enchanting table, brewing stand, and nether gate. He built a hall and set them all up nicely, starting to look like a wizard's lair. No need to explain any further, the results speak for themselves. Maybe I should just build a wizard tower. Levi thought for a moment, then grabbed a freshly brewed swiftness potion, enhanced it with glowstone, and added gunpowder to make it a splash potion. Then, he headed straight for the racetrack. Snap! The potion bottle shattered, and Levi quickly fed 2 golden carrots to his fastest horses. Soon, a speedy little foal was born. He repeated the process twice. Finally, Speed, 20m/s, a top-tier horse was born. After building a special stable for his champion horse, Levi went back to the brewing stand and made every potion he could: strength, agility, night vision, respiration, fire resistance. Too bad the gas tier he'd gotten earlier fell into the lava, otherwise, he could have made regeneration potions. Levi picked up the fire resistance potion and his mind raced to Moria. Balrog, your fire magic is useless against me now. Still, fire magic aside, that thing is massive. Even without flames, a Balrog could crush a building just by charging. Forget the Balrog, even smog is still a problem for Levi. Not enough. Not strong enough. Levi looked at the elf steel armor he was wearing. I'm still too weak. Stronger. I need to get stronger. Levi glanced at the 12 diamonds in his pack, then at the nether portal. The nether has piglin fortresses, which might have netherite and random diamond gear. Worth a trip. Levi counted his supplies, grabbed fire resistance potions, golden apples, Lomba's bread, and other provisions, then stepped into the nether once more. Let's do this. Piglin fortresses aren't easy to find, especially when this is real life. Levi chose a direction and headed that way, slaying skeletons, paving stone roads, running through crimson forests, eating roasted hoglin, and drinking potions to swim through lava lakes. After days of exploring, losing track of day and night, he finally saw a dark structure. Piglin creatures wandered around, some with crossbows, others with golden swords and axes, and a few wore armor, unlike the zombie pigmen he'd encountered before. These piglins seemed smarter, with intelligent glints in their eyes. Levi equipped the golden boots he'd made, then, he cautiously approached the fortress. Achievement unlocked, Glory Days. Several crossbow-wielding piglins passed by, studied the strange visitor, sniffed the air, and decided to ignore him. Levi breathed a sigh of relief. He was still wary of the piglins. The first time he met them, he'd had no idea what to do and got beat down fast. These guys hit hard, some with axes that made shields useless. You had to be careful. It was good to avoid a fight for now, but Levi knew that if he wanted the fortress's treasure, he'd have to fight them sooner or later. As soon as he opened a chest in the fortress, all the piglins around would turn hostile. So, he needed to figure out how to deal with them before that happened. Levi pulled out cobblestone and started building, slowly approaching the fortress. Golden armor wasn't foolproof. It could fool regular piglins, but a brute would attack anyway. Gold or no gold, Levi carefully avoided the brutes with their 50 health points. If those things had more health, they could fight trolls. Still, even the strongest brute was no match for the ingenuity of a crafty player. A piglin brute patrolled his territory. As he walked into a dead end and turned to go back, he heard a clatter behind him. He turned to find a stone wall blocking his path. He was trapped. The brute was dumbfounded and just grunted helplessly behind the wall. Similar scenes played out all over the fortress. Not just brutes, but regular piglin civilians fell victim to the cobblestone walls. One minute they were walking, the next they were trapped. A slightly smarter piglin saw what was happening and thought of the ancient builders, but it was too late. Levi looted the fortress from top to bottom. He found diamond pants, a diamond pickaxe, a netherite ingot, and a netherite upgrade template. He also dug up dozens of gold nuggets from hidden spots, and found golden carrots, crossbows, crying obsidian, and other valuables in the treasure chests, filling his inventory. He had to selectively take the most valuable items. The first fortress was a great hall. Levi used the crying obsidian to craft a respawn anchor. It could only be placed in the nether, and it allowed him to respawn 4 times, but only in the nether. Now Levi could respawn in the nether without worrying about dying permanently. After placing the respawn anchor near the portal and charging it with glowstone, Levi decided to press on instead of going home. He continued along the path from the first fortress. 1 netherite ingot wasn't enough. He trekked through the nether for a month. Then, he came to another fortress, blocked off all the piglins, and opened the chest. A netherite scrap lay inside. Finally, that's all I needed. Levi pulled out his crafting table and combined 4 gold ingots and 4 netherite scraps. His 4th netherite ingot was ready, thanks to Ian for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to God Doesn't Like Onions for a monthly ticket, thanks to Rebirth of I Am Pippi Shrimp for a monthly ticket, thanks to Bookfriend 201902102348227746 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to DSDSSDDSSS for a monthly ticket, thanks to Zhou Jian for a monthly ticket, thanks to Bookfriend 202303081803575543 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Kwai Gung Ah for a monthly ticket, thanks to Bookfriend 2021102165 thanks to 410246 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Nan Fongmanga for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Bookfriend 1501232136322021 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to Bookfriend 202209072233411743 for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to I Like to Read Books for 2 monthly tickets, thanks to I Am Not a Big Loser for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Bookfriend 202209231203515545 for 1 monthly ticket, thanks to Crab Bros is Easy for 1 monthly ticket. Thank you for your support. Chapter 39 Unexpected Visitor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Levi must have hit up a ton of those piglin bastions for these 4 netherite ingots. Sure, you could dig for the scraps yourself, but even if the odds weren't ridiculously low, it's still faster to raid a bastion, and even if you do unearth some, you still need diamonds for armor, which means even more scavenging. That's where the piglin bastions come in handy. Levi could usually find a diamond weapon or piece of armor in the chests scattered around each one, to haul away all the good stuff. Levi ditched any extra food, potions, even a whole stack of iron blocks. No biggie, there's a whole vein of iron back home that'll last forever. All that work paid off. With the netherite in hand, Levi called it quits on the hellish journey and headed back the way he came. Pioneering is never easy. You've got to navigate rough terrain, build bridges over lava lakes, and watch out for monsters spawning out of nowhere, but the return trip was a breeze, just following the road he'd built on the way in. Before he knew it, Levi was back at the portal. He even managed to off a few ghasts along the way and chop up some endermen wandering through the warped forest, hefting the cool, smooth ender pearl in his hand. Levi figured it would fetch a good price if he sold it, but someone might freak out if they accidentally tossed it. Time to go home, he said. Levi was craving the sunshine and air back in Zhongzhou. *swoosh star, the sunlight hit him like a brick. After being stuck in the nether's gloom, the bright sun and grassy fields felt like a different world. Looks like fall's here, he remarked, breathing in the crisp air. Levi sighed. It had already been half a year since he arrived in this world, felt like he was always either on an adventure or on his way to one. Taking a deep breath, and exhaling the lingering smell of sulfur, Levi stretched and soaked in the peacefulness of the world. Then he headed to his storage to pack his backpack and walked straight to the enchantment table. Luckily, Levi had found a full set of diamond gear in those piglin bastions, some with decent enchantments already on them. After all that monster slaying in the nether, he was sitting on level 42. Levi dumped all his XP into books, hoping for some good enchantments. When he ran low, he went fishing, then back to enchanting. He spent a whole week fishing, and his storage got filled with junk, boxes of enchantment books, bows, fishing rods, some great, some not so much. Thanks to luck of the C3, Levi combined some of the broken gear he'd reeled in at the anvil. He even pieced together a fully enchanted bow with the Infinity enchantment, Power V, Infinity, Unbreaking 3, Punch 2, Flame. While it wasn't quite as strong as the Orc bow, the enchantments made up for it. It would do until he had enough experience to enchant the Orc bow. Levi also maxed out his fishing rod's enchantments, patching it up with some enchantment books to add Lure 3 and Mending. Of course, those were just bonuses. The most important thing was that his diamond armor was fully enchanted. One day, Levi went to the smithing table and pulled out his diamond armor and netherite ingots. Achievement, wrapped in debris. A set of sleek black armor, glowing faintly, materialized on his body. It looked solid and powerful, with a feeling of real heft to it, and like the old armor, it didn't restrict his movement at all. The moment he put it on, Levi felt unstoppable. 4 pieces of netherite armor gave him a total of 4 points of knockback resistance. This was a full set of protection 4 netherite armor. Now, Levi felt like he could take on just about anything, but there was one more thing he needed to do. Levi grabbed the ancient elven sword and finished enchanting it, Sharpness V. Unbreaking 3, Sweeping Edge 3, Looting 3, Mending, Fire Aspect 2. After thinking it over carefully, Levi decided against adding knockback to the sword. Having to chase after enemies to finish them off was too much of a pain and slowed things down. With all his gear complete, Levi didn't stop improving his base. He kept mining, harvesting crops, breeding animals, brewing potions, and smelting ore, constantly stockpiling resources. Too bad there's no redstone to be found, either here in Zhongzhou or in the Nether. Without redstone, automation was impossible, and a lot of tech was out of reach. Levi kept up his relentless resource gathering for an unknown amount of time, working day and night. The stockpile of resources back at the castle grew at an incredible rate. One sunny morning, Levi was leaning against the city wall, enjoying the view, when he spotted a figure standing at the city gate. It was an old man in a grey robe and pointed hat, leaning on a wooden staff. The tired-looking old man was standing on the lawn at the gate, puffing on Charles's pipe, staring at the massive castle like he'd never seen anything like it before, a deep frown etched on his face. He looked like he was having an existential crisis. Either I've lost my marbles, or this world's gone completely bonkers, the old man muttered to himself. Seeing a visitor, Levi pulled a lever, and with a clang, the two iron doors beside him slid open, startling the old man. Oh, hello there, stranger. Despite the jump, the old man greeted him politely. Hey, what can I do for you? Levi asked, carefully studying the visitor. Levi knew who he was the moment he saw his face, that weathered but peaceful face, and those black eyes shining with wisdom beneath the thick white eyebrows, had made a lasting impression the first time they met, no doubt about it, the Grey Wizard, Gandalf. Hello, young man. I'm just a bit disoriented. I don't recall ever seeing such a sprawling castle in this wilderness. I may be old, but I think my memory's still pretty sharp. Gandalf took another puff of his pipe. It calmed him down. It hasn't even been a year since I last passed through here. Back then, this small plain was pretty much empty. In fact, it was completely bare. This is quite peculiar. Yep, you're right, there wasn't anything here a year ago, Levi replied, and then added, but I came here not long ago. Figured the location was prime, so I built a castle. Are you saying that you built all this? Just you. And in less than a year? Levi nodded, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Gandalf's frown deepened. Someone is about to be abducted. Thanks to bookfriend 201704082044407009 for a monthly ticket. Thank you to bookfriend 202403121219523341 for a monthly ticket. Thank you to bookfriend 202303132214052220 for a monthly ticket. Thank you for your support. Chapter 40, Territory News. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The wizard peered intently at Levi, as if trying to see right through him. I wasn't aware we were expecting new people. Something about this guy felt familiar. My name is Gandalf. Gandalf the Grey. That's what anyone who knows me calls me. The young human lord, Levi, had certainly captured the old wizard's interest. Surprising as it was, Gandalf was a wizard. That title meant he was a wizard who had been around for a very long time. After wandering Middle-earth for so long, Gandalf had seen pretty much everything. This was just someone with magical abilities, although this one did feel a bit different. Levi. I'm an adventurer. An adventurer? You look more like an architect, or a lord. Thanks. The lord part is debatable, but I do some architecture on the side. As he spoke, Levi glanced upwards, sizing up Gandalf. This old Gandalf wasn't your average Joe. Even though the system said Gandalf had 30 hit points, Levi suspected that health bar was locked. Gandalf, it's not exactly polite to leave a guest standing at the gate. Why don't you come on in and take a look around? Oh, right, of course. I'd be happy to. Gandalf nodded and followed Levi through the iron gate. His eyes darted around, taking in the layout inside the city walls, animals and pens, sprawling horse pastures and stables, and fields of mature crops, all normal. It was autumn, harvest time. The crops looked good, too, really producing. Gandalf nodded, continuing his survey. Was that a blacksmith shop? That forging table looked familiar. Where had he seen it before? Wait, what was that over there? Gandalf immediately spotted the enchanting table, with strange runes flowing from the bookshelves toward it. This novel sight sparked his curiosity. I can sense magic coming from that. Whoa, sensing Gandalf's presence, the book on the enchanting table flipped open automatically, facing him. The wizard was genuinely surprised. That's what I use to add magic to equipment. Speaking of which, your staff doesn't look that powerful. Want me to enchant it for you? Enchanting? As in, adding magic? If it's possible, I'd be willing to try it. For some reason, Gandalf felt an inexplicable connection with the young man. It was like stepping back in time, to before Middle-earth, or even before that. Without thinking, Gandalf handed the staff to Levi and watched him intently, as if expecting to see something. Levi's title library must have been running another check. Gandalf nodded, confirming that the young man was no enemy of the Free Peoples, but a friend to elves and rangers. He even seemed on good terms with dwarves. Maybe he'd do some digging in the area later. Something like this couldn't have sprung up out of nowhere. He'd likely find rumors or stories about him in the nearby settlements. Gandalf was lost in thought, but Levi was focused, solid with staff, attack +5, seriously. A plain wooden stick with the same attack power as a stone sword. One hit to the head with this thing and you'd be lights out. Standing at the enchanting table, Levi stared at the smooth staff in his hand. Something wrong? Gandalf finally asked. Nah, just thinking this is one unique staff. Gandalf nodded. It has been with me for quite some time. Levi didn't say anything for a moment. Was that what he was supposed to be focused on? What he cared about was why the new module unlock prompt hadn't popped up yet. Was this thing even a staff? After waiting without success, Levi sighed and gave up for the moment. He pulled out the lapis lazuli and placed the staff on the enchanting table. The staff floated into the air, and the lapis lazuli melted in Levi's hand, turning into streams of light that flowed into it. Durability 3, Sharpness 4, not bad. Levi grabbed a Sharpness 4 enchanted book from a nearby chest and directly upgraded the staff to Sharpness V. Now the attack power was 8 points. Impressive. Levi handed the staff back to Gandalf. As soon as he took hold of it, with its faint glow, Gandalf felt the difference. He swung it a couple of times, testing its weight. I can feel that it's harder and sharper. It could serve as a weapon. Gandalf was pleased. Thank you, young, Levi. This will make my journey a bit easier. The wise old man had thought for a long time but couldn't figure out what to call Levi. After all, he seemed to have a few titles. Finally, he gave up and went with his real name. Any time. Glad I could help. Although Levi's territory was large, it wasn't densely packed with buildings. Large areas were still empty and undeveloped. It didn't take long to see it all. As they walked, Gandalf recognized many of the things he saw, drawing on his experiences to comment on them. For a moment, it felt like Gandalf was giving Levi the tour. The alchemy lab. Alchemy? I know someone out in the woods who makes potions with some strange effects, but he mainly uses them to help the local wildlife. The Netherwort farm. Oh, I think I've seen this kind of sand. It's in the dead marshes to the east. There are bones from long ago, and resentment festers. People get lost and drown, becoming another soul trapped in the swamp. Don't worry. The soul sand here won't drag you down. It'll make you fly, Levi thought to himself. This is just awful. Using the souls of the dead as fertilizer for medicine. Gandalf pointed at the Netherwort. This was like something a necromancer would do. Gandalf shook his head. Even though he said this, he didn't object or try to stop Levi. He just glanced at it and moved on. After all, it only looked a little evil. It wasn't causing any real harm. Gandalf usually maintained a calm, composed demeanor. Even so, when he followed Levi near the nether portal, his eyes widened and he froze. This. Gandalf subconsciously lit his pipe.